Hello, people of the internets. Welcome back to another Archetype by Lenovo, hosted by me. Let's get into it. So, this is our last little episode for our brute character, and I'll show you guys kind of where we were last stream and where we ended up. I think it might be 6. We'll see. We'll open it. So we kind of end up, this is about where we ended up last time. So obviously you can see that I worked on him a decent amount, trying to figure out the arm. But I wanted to kind of go over real quick before posing him, kind of what I did, so that way you guys can kind of learn and not feel so left out or left behind. But again, a lot of that stuff just kind of happens off stream because making a character is a lot of work. And so 2 hours, in 4 sessions isn't all that much time. So I like to get a little bit of extra. But you can see this is where we started out from last stream, and this is where he is now. So a couple things is you can see that I talked about before in the previous stream that I was going to do this, where I was going to, add the cool little acorns, kind of like what our reference had of medieval armor, and I added a simple, subtle gear cog on the other side. So by adding the little gear cog, made me think that could be easily a motif that we could put throughout his armor and throughout his design. And so you can see that I changed his, big shoulder pauldron to being something that, resembles more of like gears and cogs. And again, it's not really about having it be functional machinery. It's more about it looking like that medieval armor from that kind of silhouette view, right? But then when we get into some of the details, it feels a bit more steampunky and whatnot. So again, just sticking with like kind of those motifs that we talked about. So you can see I added a lot of like gear teeth in certain areas just to continue holding that design true. I even changed his little belt buckle here, his little lashes to for his little sashes and straps to be even gear cogs and stuff. So again, just repeating what I did with the shoulder a couple times over helps a lot kind of sell and solidify his design and make him feel a little more consistent throughout his armor. And then same thing, we have the subtle, it's kind of harder to tell obviously, but we still have our subtle little acorn shape as well, which if I wanted to, I could go back and say, hey, is there somewhere along this design that is kind of missing that shape? I could have repeated it again down the arm. But you kind of want to play with this idea of like a big, medium, small when you're playing with these shapes and stuff. So, if I was to add it again, maybe I could make something feel a little more acorn shaped on his shoulder pauldron or something like that. But again, we can always play with things like that. But for now, I just want to show you guys and kind of put you up to speed as to where he came this week. And now we're going to get into posing the character, and then we're going to try to see if I can pose him in a way that I could put the two characters that we've worked on together, because that's kind of the point, right, is one's fighting the other. So because of that, I also gave him a giant sword. So I made like a really quick, cool sword that he could hold, and we could play with the kind of size and shape, but I'm a big fan of, giant cloud sword or something like that, just to really push like the realm of stylized and things. So we can make this even longer or bigger, figure out what we want to do with it. But I also need to make sure that his little handle can fit into his tiny little hand. So, which honestly is cool because that could lead to really cool shapes where it's playing again with those like big, medium, small shapes throughout the design and things like that. So, now we're going to get into the fun part. If you guys were with me last time I posed a character, you know that it's not always super, super exciting, but I think it's really important to show. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the sword because Transpose Natural will only take in what's visible, and I just want him as a character. There's some stuff that I could say I could do without posing for now. Like, I could get rid of this tube, for example, and pose that later, I think I actually will probably do that. These ones I can keep on because they're kind of with wrist and elbow, which kind of will move together probably, but this is such a huge long jump that's probably just going to get in my way. And I can always redraw that too, or position it kind of later after the fact. So I kind of think of things like that where I go, what can I pose afterwards that I don't need right now? Another answer would probably actually maybe be the tail. And speaking of which, I have a full body underneath here, which we also don't need. So what I'm going to do as well is, for the sake of posing, you know, if we look at what is actually seen, it's just his arm, neck, and tail. So this is going to make it a lot easier for me to be able to pose if I just get rid of everything else that's underneath. So I'll duplicate it, and I'll still keep the body, but I'll hide it. And then I'm going to go ahead and hide away the rest of him, because it's just going to make selecting and picking stuff and moving stuff just a bigger pain in the butt. So we only need to select that stuff. We can see delete hidden, and then it'll update my geometry. And now I just have what I need for the pose. That's going to be a lot easier to pose than having a bunch of the other stuff underneath. So, and say hello to everybody in the chat, by the way. Hello, I see some people on YouTube. I see someone on Facebook, which is cool. I didn't even know we streamed on Facebook, so hello there. And of course, as always, shoot out your questions as I pose. It should be a pretty chill stream today, nothing too crazy. Just gonna, again, take it nice and slow. Get into some CV mastery pose. It's also important to know before getting into Transform Master, if you guys are sculpting and you sculpted something that doesn't have subdivisions. So if I say all low, this is actually what I'm going to be working with. Everything on here doesn't have subdivisions yet, which is another thing I kind of want to note and make, and say something about is your character should look pretty complete and pretty refined and finished, even with no subdivisions yet. The only few things that have subdivisions are obviously like his gauntlet. We detailed, one of his gauntlets features 2 here. There are 2 in here. That helps me because now I can just delete one. So yeah, something like this, we went in refined, which is fine to do. But you can see that a lot of it I actually don't have subdivisions on yet. But it still looks like kind of a full finished final character. And that's the thing that I wanted to just note is that, your character should look pretty finished even though he's at, a really low resolution. And that's just going to make posing and stuff a lot easier. And later on, that would make technically this character, I don't know if we merge it all down, we'll see what he actually is topology-wise, and he might even be game asset, low poly, which is pretty nice because then we could kind of take what is our high res and kind of make it our low res, which is kind of the point of my workflow and my process. So we're gonna go ahead and make sure that, again, if you have like a Dynamesh, you're gonna have to pose a Dynamesh, which is not gonna be very friendly. So I like to keep everything super low with nice topology, so it can deform really nice and easily. And I'll be able to select all that stuff a lot easier. So we're gonna go ahead and do a T-pose mesh. And it's gonna run through everything that's visible, and it'll bring it out into a separate tool, like so. And yeah, you can see some of the geometries like flipped in things, which I will reflip. Or you can just turn on double for now if you don't want to worry about it. And you can just, make note of what was flipped and you can flip it later. It might be easier just to flip later. Depends on kind of what it is or how many pieces are flipped. It doesn't look like that many are flipped. But my fear is that if I flip it in here, actually, it might not translate over to ZBrush, or translate over to the other. It might get all funky because it reads like vertex order and things like that. So for now, I'm just gonna put on double so I can just see everything and not worry about it. But you can see that our character all merged together, even with little pipes and all that stuff. He's only 72,000 active vertices, which is pretty low. I've made game characters that are higher res than that for sure. So you can see that this is a really great and easy way to work, because now I could utilize this and almost bake directly on top of it if I wanted to, depending on how I refine stuff. There might be little tweaks here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty simple. All right, so I'm going to start making some polygroups that make sense to me. I'll first probably run in and do an auto group just to make sure that there's no weird, because a lot of my stuff is grouped by normal, so I can do creasing and things like that, and I don't need that at this moment. So I just want to make sure that I have all the nice separate pieces. I made a really lovely decision to put all these stupid little nuts and bolts on, so that's going to be really fun to just go through and grab, but it's not that big of a deal. So I'm going to go ahead and grab, things that I know I'm going to be grabbing all together. I'll definitely be grabbing stuff like that together. I'll definitely be grabbing the belt. I'll grab that together. That's fine on its own. Pants are fine on its own. I'll go ahead and grab these little markers here. So again, anything hard surface, I definitely just want to keep grouped together. And so I'll do the same to his upper arm as well. So these pants have these little things on the side, so I'll make sure that that gets grouped together. So anything that I know that I'll be moving, again, together, I just want to make sure that I have, and I can even grab the tail. And now this, because this is a lot of pieces, so it's easier for me to just select all of this, and then deselect once I invert it what I don't want, and boom, there we go. Now I can make sure I can select that. If I want to, I could grab that, and then if I want to move the shoe separately, I can shrink this, and I can shrink the selection, and I can make that a polygroup in itself. So now I can grab the shoe and move that back and forth easier if I wanted to, and move that up and down. So I'll probably keep it like that. And you can always test this stuff too. If I select this, and I move this to where it would rotate, does it kind of work? And the answer is yeah, it works. So I'll just do it with that. Kind of depends on your workflow, how much selecting you want to do. I could easily select above that joint to mask and do like a soft select. But remember, all this stuff is hard surfacey, so we're going to try to not, move it as much as possible. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Grab all that, and then just deselect the things that I don't need. And now I can grab that, and then I can go ahead and grab those little points on the top, shrink the selection. I'm shrinking the selection by hitting Control-Shift-S to shrink. Control-Shift-X will expand. And then I can just go ahead and polygroup that again. And now I have my shoes. Go ahead and select the upper arm as one piece, and then I'll do the lower arm as a separate piece. I'll go ahead and use the select lasso tool because it's a lot easier to select around this stuff. And for basic posing for now, I can just block this in so I can get a really fast block in. And then later, if I want to change the polygroups to like adjust the hands or remove the fingers, I can go and do that later. But you can start with like big shape polygroups first. Just to make sure that you're getting, all those shapes, or all the big form changes first. And knowing that most of this stuff, like the cog and straps and things, so I'll just go around and select these, because these will probably be going with torso, right? That'll probably all move together. I'll leave these separate for now. Or the I'll leave the cogs, the other little cogs attached to the pauldron. And I'll leave the neck separate and the head separate. Now, there's parts of the head that I want the eyebrows and the eyes just to move, and I can change the expression after the fact. I don't need to worry about the head doing anything at the moment. So there, now we've got that. Now we just got to do the arm. So that's the fun part. Let me grab these little these little nuggets. And again, if I miss some, it's almost easier to just go, oh, I missed some, and then delete them and redraw them out anyway, because they're just little, mini spheres. So it's really easy to go back and change that stuff. Because again, I haven't really, modeled anything yet. And this is just more for, again, posing a maquette. Obviously in a game situation, I wouldn't even be bothering with posing it. I'd just be moving on to the low res. Oh, we got that half arm in there. That's right. We'll have to deal with that later. That's fine. So I'm just going to keep selecting stuff. Again, all these little fun nuggets. I could do something where I could say polygroup merge similar, but the issue is it's going to merge all of the nuts into one polygroup, which then I could, separate it out into separate polygroups and stuff. There's so many different ways you can go about it, but for me, I'm like, oh, just slowly selecting each one isn't really the end of the world. It's easy enough just to select these by polygroup. And there we go. So now I have this part of the arm. And I'll go ahead and at the elbow, I'll do something like that, and I can shrink this down. Can't technically actually use shrink because then it'll keep shrinking the other way. But I can just easily, lasso that. And now I have this as one big group that I can move up and down. I probably, actually, now thinking about it, I think I actually want to, let's see if I can shrink all this. Yeah. So I actually want this to be separate because I want to be able to move the shoulder and the arm, maybe wheel them around a little differently. So I'm going to polygroup this one. But you can see how quickly I can deselect and reselect stuff. There's not that much stuff to select in the form. There we go. And I'll do the same thing again where I'll just select a certain part. What do I want to keep? Which is what I want to, get rid of. And that can go with the shoulder polygon. Or I might be able to go with the shirt even. So yeah, there we go. I'll have that for now. That part might not even matter when I start moving it around. I can just fudge it into place later. There'll be a lot of fudging around into place on a lot of this stuff because we are doing it in ZBrush, but that's okay. Oh, there's these little doohickeys that I left behind that I didn't need anymore, but that's okay. I'll just delete them later. So again, I'll probably take something like that, make that its separate polygroup, and then now I'll take the gauntlet. Why do I pick things and make a bunch of detailed stuff? Why do I do that, you guys? It's terrible. Did the same thing with the last one where I was like, we're gonna add all these potions and all this stuff that makes me want to go around and have to move all this stuff when I'm posing and blah. It's always so fun. So now I'm just going to pick the rest of the gauntlet. But again, if I want to adjust, where that stuff sits later, I can. Oh, I got the little tiny baby hand in there. And then I can just grab. There we go. Merge all that down, and then I can leave these two separate because I'll probably be soft selecting those anyway. Just to make sure that they move properly or whatever. So there. Now we have polygroups that you should be able to move around. You don't have to see the wireframe in this, so if this hurts your eyes, you can always turn off the line, and then you can look at your groups that way, and pose that way if that's comfortable for you. So cool. So my idea, drinking coffee. So my idea for the posing is to, I'm gonna have him slicing through, and my idea is hopefully that it will kind of match up with our character who's jumping, our fox character that we did last month, and I kind of want him slicing through that puff cloud that we made before. Again, it's not gonna be perfect because I didn't keep in mind when posing the other one that I was maybe gonna be posing this guy with it, but we're gonna see what we can do. So I want this hand to be as if he's sliced through that cloud piece, and then maybe he's holding up his arm as like a, you know, a defense or whatever it may be. So again, we want a nice like line of action of an arc to go through his body. And you can kind of think like I always have to personally, you know, if I'm slicing with this hand, I'm crossing over and I'm going to do a big sweep. It means the same foot's going to be forward. I think it'd be kind of weird to step with the other foot, right? So if I'm slicing across, that means his same foot's going to be forward. So starting to think about stuff like that. Sometimes it's really easy to, you know, you can get up out of your chair and do the pose, or you can have your friend like, hey, you know, oh, can you sit in this pose for me? And let me like take a picture of it. As reference, or you can look online. I was trying to look online to find some poses of what I wanted, but a lot of it's like fencing or something else that I can't quite find a reference for, but I still have it up just as a general idea. So yeah, so to start with, I think the easiest thing to do is to try to get an initial twist into his body. I always like starting with the twist of a character's body because it's usually, at least in this case, it's actually pretty easy because they're so split at the midline. I can go ahead and make sure that, you know, this right foot, his right foot's gonna be forward. So I can start twisting his body a bit this way. You know, and you don't have to break it or anything like that. If you wanted to make sure that actually the twist felt even more natural, this is where those polygrids come in handy. Is I can select this one. I can do a soft select on it, right? And now I can twist the lower half with the bottom. And you can see I can get like a nice little twist in there, just an ever so slightly little twist. And then I can invert that, and I can move this character around. And the biggest part about posing in ZBrush is you want to make sure that you're putting the pivot point where that joint would be. So when I'm moving him, you know, if I'm going to have him bending, he's going to be stepping and bending forward and slicing through, then I want to make sure that that joint, or my gizmo, is where that joint would actually be. I'm trying to get a nice idea of like a twisting action. I can keep soft selecting this stuff, so at a certain point I can also, you know, bring this into play, and I can kind of soft select that too. And you can see what that does as well. You have to be very careful when, you know, when trying to pick and choose how much you're twisting stuff. Because, you know, it's also important to note that the topology is going to be different. So this is so low res that it's not lining up perfectly with what's underneath. So obviously the way it moves is going to act a little different. So soft selecting this is going to be like a bigger soft select. Hello, streamer. I see you. Oh, Saisido. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but hello from YouTube. So yeah, you want to be careful with that, and then you also really want to be careful. He's got a ton of hard surface parts, so you want to make sure that anything that you're selecting, you're also not accidentally warping any of that stuff that's not supposed to be warped. You could maybe fudge it a little bit, but I like to try to be really careful with that, because in reality, that gear cog or all that heavy hard surface stuff isn't going to do. So I think it's really important to make sure that you keep that stuff stiff and move the organic shapes kind of around it. So yeah, so now we'll grab his arm. And you can see with the polygroups, it's really easy to select all this. And then anything that's kind of a soft selection, I can go ahead and select, kind of do a soft selection around this, right? I can, you know, soften that out a bit more. And then I'll invert this and make sure that this is all nice and good. And any straps and things, you know, if it gets messed up, I can kind of move that later, or I can go in here and pick these little verts here. And this is where maybe this could be a separate poly group or not. It really just depends on what you want to do. But I might be able to grab that ever so slightly. Try to grab those poly groups there. I'm really trying to just grab the vertices, you know, and then I can mask out some stuff. And then you can test it to see how it's going to look. Again, I'm always picking the hardest things to pose on these streams. But see, if I start to move this around, you know, I get like a pretty nice soft, oops, don't make it bigger. I get a pretty nice soft select though. You can see how I move it. Oh boy, it's main man synth coming in hot from Twitch. What's going on? But yeah, see how I was able to grab that belt, and now when I move it back and forth, it kind of works. There's a couple things that I grabbed that, you know, I didn't need to grab. But I can invert that and soften it again, you know, and see if I can make that a little easier on myself. And yeah, that kind of works. But again, a lot of that stuff, some of it's just going to have to change after the fact. So I can move this in a little bit. But again, that pauldron isn't probably going to move a whole lot. But I can start to kind of squeeze certain things in. I think the biggest thing for him is making sure that I can get that nice twist going in his arm. And a lot of this stuff is going to be pinchable and squeezable. So I can always make sure that I can adjust that. A question from YouTube is, do you already know what pose you're going to do, or are you trying various poses? In ZBrush, I think it's really important just to have a pose in mind, because it takes way too long in ZBrush to do various poses. If I needed to do various poses of stuff, I would definitely be using something like, you know, I would, in the end, you would want to rig it or something like that and make sure that all that stuff is, you know, nice and rigged and has good topology and all that stuff. Our model does have good topology, as I mentioned in the beginning of the stream. But you just want to make sure that, yeah, for rigging, it's going to be a lot easier to create that variation than it will when we're trying to do it in ZBrush, because ZBrush just isn't really meant for doing that. You can do tons of variations if you want to, but yeah, just making sure that, you know, you have to be really careful when posing, and it just takes too long. So when it comes to posing in ZBrush, I almost always will have an idea of, you know, what it is that I want to do and how I want to go about doing that. So yeah. So you can see I'm soft selecting the arm. Let's see what kind of movement and range we can get from this dude. I'll worry about this middle section later if I have to kind of twist it or rotate it. So I'm gonna just find where his elbow would be and try to find that joint. And I can rotate that up. In order for him to twist, for his arm to come very far forward, there's going to be a lot of stuff that we're going to have to kind of push and finagle on the top of his shoulder. Just because, again, there's a lot of hard surface stuff going on that's going to have tons of crashing and things like that. And you can see that the tubes are already getting like pretty wonky. So I'm not really going to worry about it too much. Again, I can correct that and redraw them later, or I can save this as a pose one, bring it in from my old one and kind of reposition them. There's just stuff like that that's just not going to be overly friendly. You can grab them if you want, And you can try to do like a polish on features or something to see if that works. But in the end, probably not going to be very friendly. So I'm just going to try to make sure that I leave them out. You can't delete them because then it won't translate to your, your initial tool that you got this from. That's okay. And again, later, if we needed to, I will sometimes either pose hands right now, or if they're separate enough tools, I know, like, for example, I know that this is all one tool, all these fingers and stuff, so I could go in after the fact and pose that. I just need to find, where he's going to be first, and pose that stuff later. But posing also really helps with, when I was at Legacy, there were tons of things that I had to keep in mind when it came to creating armor, because you'll get tons of crashing, right? If you don't model or add or put in the idea that, you are going to be bending this elbow, so what kind of space needs to be there? And after the fact, you can go, okay, maybe I need to adjust like my final model. Right now I think we're just going to have tons of crashing, which for the stream I think will be totally fine. Not super worried about it, but you can see that it does make a really big difference. Question from Twitch Sin. If you were to turn this into a game asset for the areas with overlapping geometry, do you try to stitch them together into one mesh, or do most riggers not mind the overlapping? It depends. I've worked at studios that want it all stitched together, nice and clean and all that stuff, because it does make the rigging job a lot easier. But I've also worked at companies that don't mind. You shouldn't have vastly different topology. I think that's really important to keep in mind. So if something's, about this much resolution, everything should, if it's this square, then everything else should also feel about that square. Again, there's going to be differences, like the face is going to always have more topology than, other parts. But overall, it should feel fairly even, and that just makes the rigger's job a lot easier. In reality, this hand's too high res, but I just did a quick remesh and did whatever because streaming. So, keep that stuff in mind for sure. But yeah, in reality, I would be probably making sure that all this stuff is either stitched together or is one piece. Something like this pauldron, maybe this would be one piece and not have so much overlap because you just don't need it for a game asset. So yeah, a lot of stuff would get kind of condensed into those things. I'm just playing with trying to move this out because I don't want it to block his head. I'm just trying to play with, where can we put this character? I'm gonna go ahead and move his feet. Well, actually, I can easily move his hand back. That's probably easy enough to do. My pleasure, Sim, as always. I love answering questions. I'm gonna go ahead and grab this whole top half, which I should be able to do pretty easily. You can also I like alt snapping to joints or to vertices, and then I can alt move it in, so I know I'm kind of having the right face and direction. I'm gonna bend it forward a bit and twist this a bit more. Grab his head. And again, I'm always going to be trying to point towards where that pivot point is. So, the back of the neck. Your neck's farther in the back than it is, up in the front, like where that one bone is, which is called the. There's two bones. There's the atlas bone, and then there's I think it's called the axis bone. One makes your head move up and down, and the other bone will make your head turn left and right, or side to side. So now that I have that, I can also point towards, where is his face. I kind of like doing that, so it feels more like a raid. Oh yeah, the alt snapping is the ultimate trick for hard surfacing and moving stuff around. In ZBrush, so I feel like the alt snap will help you a lot. It always, oh man, I love always turning the head because it'll start to feel a little more dynamic when you do. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna lower his. I'm gonna try to lower him even more. See how far I can try to get away with stuff. Again, with ZBrush posing, you're gonna be pushing a lot of stuff, especially with something like this that's so hard surfacey. But I'm gonna see how far I can bend this dude over. Because I really want to get that feeling of. And this is where I can start using the move brush and start squeezing some stuff in here. I do want to be careful about that gear cog though. So if I want to be really careful about it, I can try to grab it. Let's see if I can try to grab it. I can expand it. I can mask that, bring that back, and then I can just kind of squish. I want to squish this stuff in. And a lot of this stuff, again, I can change after the fact. I'll probably say that many a times. You can kind of adjust, but I just want to get that feeling starting to feel like he's bending over, and then I got to bring his foot forward, because obviously he's super off balance now. But the question is how far bent over can I get him to go? Someone on YouTube is asking, hello, I'm a beginner in ZBrush. Can anybody share an amazing course or tutorial, please? I'm your tutorial, obviously. No. Also, hello, Zukuda. Nice to see your familiar name, Missy Man. So for tutorials for ZBrush, I would say, honestly, on YouTube, there is going to be, you guys are going to make me laugh. Hi, Paul. Hi, Poggers. All my friends are coming in and saying hi, which I appreciate. Michael Pavlovich has really good YouTube videos, and they'll be on Pixelogic or ZBrush. He also has his own channel, and anything that you want to know about ZBrush, it's going to be on there. And it's super, super handy. Right, so I'm going to grab his arm, his leg. I'm going to mask this half, and then I'm going to mask the top, right, because we don't want the top to move, but I can kind of soft select. Again, it's all about soft selecting the pants and making sure that you're in the right pivot point. And I am not moving the armor yet, so I can adjust that after the fact. But yeah, I can see I can start stepping in. This cute little boot, the little under boot looks so funny. I don't know why that made me laugh. It just looks so tiny and cute. It's like, put your back foot, put your back foot out. Put your back foot. He looks like he's gonna do a dance. It's awesome. Or go splash in some puddles or something. That makes my day. All right. Yeah, he's doing a dance move right now. It's great. Yeah, I'll bring that. I'll bring this up, and I'll probably bring this out so he feels like he has a little bit of a wider stance too. Someone's saying that Pavlovich's tutorials are very technical. It can be a little advanced, but he does have beginner ones that are super handy. But yeah, if you go on YouTube and you look around on YouTube enough, you'll definitely find some cool tutorials that should help you. But I mean, he works at Pixelogic, so the man's gonna know everything that you want to know about ZBrush. So I'm gonna soft select this again. And see now when I bend it, ooh. If only I could hear all you guys go, ooh. Ah. Also, a nice easy way to make sure that, you know, when your feet are flat, you can line them up on this little platform or like this little line here. I kind of find that helpful if you need to. But see, now I can select this guy, mask that, select this dude, mask that, and I can bring that rotation right on down. Look at this and, you know, pull that little booty down. Yeah, he definitely looks like he's marching right now. And then I can go ahead and use the move topological to move that boot back in, because that's the part that's soft and organic. That would move, you know, with his stuff moving on. And I'll try to adjust I'll try to smooth, you know, I can select his pants and try to, oops, my smooth, or you gotta reset brushes. There we go. Can smooth that out a little bit. Oh, we have a very special guest that just commented. It's a Heather. Hi, Heather. I'm wearing your sweater. I'm trying to send out that message. But yeah, I can see. You know, you can pump up. You know, try to think about where his knee is and stuff too. Which again, I can sculpt and fix this stuff later. I will always say that. So, you know, some people may be looking at this and being like, oh, it's a little rough there, Ashley. No, not looking so hot. But if you guys saw my posing last time, have some faith, have some confidence that it'll come together the way it should. But you can see now that I moved his pants, and I can start quickening up where I know his leg's gonna be and stretching out, you know, where those pants are and whatnot, and where that fold would be. And all those folds are gonna change anyways. I know, Zukulu, you always have faith in me, right? Always. You never lose faith. But yeah, I can now take this hard surface part, right? And I can go ahead and swing that out and move that around. You know, maybe it's kind of sitting more up like that or something. And again, if I want to, you can see this little piece isn't being very frank. I can move it ever so slightly, just like a little bit or something like that. Or I can adjust the pants down again a little bit, but I just want to get an idea of where that would be, you know, swinging. Because again, we're trying to stay as true as we can to how this stuff would actually move. You know, and all this stuff would probably squish, you know, nice and squishy underneath there, right? And the more you can add like cool squishing or stretching and stuff, the more realistic that's gonna look. Or if it's like getting folded underneath something, you know, that's also gonna look pretty good. So you'd be surprised how much of that, if you just add it, will actually make your pose look a little better. Cool, so we're getting there. We've got his little foot. Now we're gonna have the other foot. We're gonna stretch out his other foot in the back to give him a nice long stance. And again, I'll leave that one behind for now. So I'll mask it. Do that alt snapping, snap that into place. Trying to find the area where that would be, you know, where his joint for that would be. Oops, invert that, and then bring it back, and then invert it again. The ZBrush things. So now I can stretch his leg out and stretch it back, pull it down maybe. now I can kind of maybe rotate it out a little bit. And his arm's gonna definitely come up. We're gonna try to move his arm up as much as we can. Again, trying to be really careful with his arm because a lot of hard surface going on there. But now we can take his little shoe, which I can easily mask by just hitting Control click and snapping that little pivot point. Again, try to find and line up where those boots are going to go. You know, maybe he's on one toe. He could be on one toe. I feel like it'd be better if he was planted, but we'll see. Oh, there's multiple geometry in there. Try to move all that boot in there. Try to flatten his feet out, and then again, looking at it from like the side or something like that, you can see where maybe we need to bend his leg maybe even a little bit more, which again is easy enough to do. So I can mask all this, alt snap it. And then I can try to find where his knee would be. This also is not in perspective yet, so once I add some perspective, it'll help a little bit as well with all this stuff. But yeah, I try to model without perspective first, just so I can make sure that my ground plane and everything are feeling right. I'm gonna move this up. Oh, I should have kept his torso in there. It disappeared. Oh, we'll fix it. Don't worry about it. It's all good. It's okay. It's okay, guys. Don't worry about it. Fine. Oh, we have a question. It says, why does the scope look a bit more like a Lurny? Lurny is my ball python, so that's why it doesn't look like that, okay? It's not a snake. I'm not just about dinosaurs and snakes all the time, okay? Sometimes I'm about really buff chipmunks as well. So, you know, you gotta live with it. There we go, and now I can push shirt out. I would ultimately probably want to push this back so it feels like it's getting stretched, right? So it feels like the shoulders move a bit more. So then I can pull this shoulder in. Again, the body moves a lot and stretches a lot when it comes to you know, posing, and especially when you're, you know, you're moving your muscles and all that stuff. There's tons of flexing and stretching that's going on. So a little bit of stretching, a little bit of flexing never really hurt a pose. If anything, it's gonna make it look more realistic. Trying to see if I think the outstretched arm is gonna be the answer once this is, you know, once his fingers are all wrapped up in a little sword hilt and handle, then I think that'll look okay. Because I'm trying to picture, you know, from above, I want it to have like this overarching kind of pose. I'm gonna try to move this guy's arm up a little more. We're gonna let it crash. So I want to just get it up there and see how it's looking. And then I can fix the that delt, the shoulder pauldron and stuff later. I just want to get that pose feeling a bit right. Whoa, it's a Jimbo box! If you guys don't know what Jimbo box is, you guys should go follow that guy. He's pretty cool. Hey, Jimmy. You're doing some cool posing, man. Join the fun. I always feel bad because I was supposed to do a lot of cool character posing and things for good old Jimbo box, and I'm not a very nice friend, and I never did any of it. I was like, yeah, man, I'll sculpt your stuff or I'll do whatever, and then I don't know, man. Life gets so busy. Okay, I'll just make you learn the blenders. What is this? Oh, there we go. I was driving nuts. I was like, why? Go away. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's getting a little better. Now we can take this dude. We could probably squish that up. And again, a lot of the stuff is squishy, so we can squish this. Try to be careful about those nuts and bolts though, but it's all good. Gotta make its head actually facing the proper direction, because that just doesn't look very good. So we'll do this, and we'll go ahead and have him facing. Now he is going to be fighting something that's looking up, or that he's looking up to. So maybe, let's see what it looks like if I can get. How far up can I get it to look without it looking too weird? And some of this stuff, again, I might have to even, finagle and pull up, and it'll be. And that looks a little strange because of the way it's deforming, but I can now smooth that out and move it up, move it in, right? And I can always sculpt that after the fact too and kind of fix that. I'm so mad that I left the torso. I was like, no, all I need is the arm. I just got this big hole in it. So I'll have to fix that. Yeah, so that's not looking too bad. Chipmunks, when they feel threatened, they like lift their tails up. It's kind of funny. We kind of did something similar. He's like all alert. Move that around. If we're thinking about the swing and where it's going and where it's twisting, probably twist it a little bit that way. And get this leg to feel right. Maybe it's a little more outstretched. Little gear cogs actually come in handy because then I can just alt tap them and the position already kind of takes place. That is getting there. Yeah, it kind of looks like he's attacking someone that's jumping from him, right? I think that's kind of the idea. It will help a lot once we get that sword in there, because right now it doesn't really look like he's doing anything super important. I could probably fix that shoe after the fact. You could also secretly just kind of like, oops, scooch it in, just do a little scooch it in a little bit. That's why I don't mind, I don't mind doing this stuff because again, everything that I do usually is super low poly. So if I even take this and stretch this out a little bit later on or after the fact, you're not gonna be able to tell, which is kind of the nice part. Maybe I'll do something like that, where it will all stretch up together, and that belt will stretch too, maybe. Again, a lot of this is super helpful for, I mean, this is why also rigging something is really handy too. It's because first you can rig it and go, okay, when I move it, what does crash, what works, what doesn't work, and you can kind of figure out, ooh, did that get all... Oh no, look at it. I thought it was squishy. That's cool. You won't even tell. I'll make it a fist and you won't even be able to see it. Do something maybe like that. And again, this part is organic, so I can actually move that little leather gauntlet around if I want to later. There we go. And it'll also be really cool to add some flow to this guy. I can also do that after the fact. Yeah, he took some damage on his thumb. Maybe he just lost it. And I can probably do that after the fact since it's only, I know it's just one piece, so I can add some cool flowiness to that if I need to later. I'm gonna go ahead and slide all this stuff up. I really want it to feel like it's pinching more. I feel like it's kind of bunching up here. But more just trying to make sense and make sure that the topology feels like it's in the right spot. When we start kind of moving this stuff around. I could probably take each individual one and kind of shift the moving plates around a little bit and change them. I could probably do that right now. Because now that we have like the overall pose, now what we can do is make sure that, like the fingers and stuff is turning the right way. If he's slicing through, you want to think about where's the top of his hand, what's facing, what's, straight, what's not. So I want to make sure that his hand, if he's coming and like slashing up or slashing across, like if he started and he's slashing up and then down, his arm actually might be a little lower than starting from there. So it's stuff like that where posing is going to be super, super important. No smuggles, I'm not going to start over. Pay attention next time. You're in school now, you should know better. I'm mean to him because I know him, don't worry about it guys, it's fine. Yeah, we'll grab this section. Really, I want to, before I do that, I'm gonna group that again, so now I can just select that all the time. So now we can rotate this a little bit. Again, I like the auto group, or you can, select down here and shrink it if you want to try to do that, or we can shrink, probably be easier to shrink what's up top. Shrink it, there we go, good. select that part. And we can, you can move that over around. We want something like that. I'm debating as to whether I want to pose it now or if I want to pose this hand after the fact. Because it's easy enough. Also, I can hide the rest of the pose, and just pose this one section again. But I think it'll be easy enough to just pose right here, right now. Let's get done. Be very careful with fingers. Just make sure that nothing else is getting selected. It's okay if there's some overlap in the, on the inside. It is going to overlap anyway, because that's how fingers usually work. They get all squishy and they can kind of bend and stuff. Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. And again, a lot of this would change on making a game asset or something like that, because we're just posing in ZBrush for the sake of one pose. This is a lot of work just for, one little pose. Which is why I don't actually recommend doing it. Because rigging might seem like a lot of work at first, or it might seem like more work, but you're going to get more mileage, obviously, out of that rig, because, somebody asked, like, would I pose this in various poses? And in ZBrush, the answer is no. But when I rig it, I totally can. I can totally do that. I can do a bunch of different versions of poses and things. And also for the sake of, this guy, I'm going to try to get as close as possible to bending, a thumb or finger. It's going to look a little janky, but, when you're looking at it from, he's giving me okay sign. Don't look rude, it's the punchy. From far away from our posing and whatnot, like it should look totally fine. It'll settle on the pose just fine. I'm also going to just kind of bend them a little bit in place, and then I can sort it out later. Usually I can pose these two kind of at the same time, and you kind of need them. So I'll make sure that. When it comes to posing fingers, it really is about the correct joint placement. Where is that knuckle? Synth has a question. Do you sometimes have to help with skin weighting at your studio, or is that always done by a rigger? It's always done by a rigger, but sometimes I have adjusted skin weights though on my own characters. I actually did do that at our studio once, but that was just because it was such an easy. Oh no, I warped something crazy. It was such an easy fix. Yeah, I accidentally messed. There we go. It's such a quick, easy fix that I was like, I could probably do this on my own, really quick. Because if it's just like one little vert that's hanging out, that's just giving you a lot of trouble. I know enough about skin weights to go in and paint one little vert out. So yeah, sometimes I will actually do that and help out. But overall, no. Usually you just hand it off to the rigger, and the rigger will go do their thing. Maybe he'll be a little posh, and like a little pinky out. Just kidding, he's not funny. It'd be kind of funny though. Just bend that real quick. good enough for now. See, there we go. Okay, so you're from far away. Yeah, it looks like this. Fun, guys. It's all good. Oh god, look at all the stuff that I have to do on this guy too. I'll probably pose this one after the fact. Also, his thumb got all wonky and weird too. I could probably just smooth that out. Fix it. Oh, look, he's got his thumb back. Yay, we're fine. It's all good, guys. See? You guys were so worried. That's feeling pretty good so far. I'm gonna move this stuff around. Let's see if I can find a nice place for all this removing and stretching. And that feels pretty good. Like I think getting to a point like this is fine, and then being able to make final little adjustments after the fact. For example, this is super far away now, right, from where our initial strap is, so we can totally make that adjustment and stuff after the fact. Also rotate this a little bit more. You know, we can fix these things, but that's way easier to fix, again, after I get out of T pose first. Someone just hopping in. Hello. So yeah, I think something like that, I think we'll be happy with for now. I could try to twist them a little bit more if I wanted to. So I could grab, let's see if it works. I don't want his body to look broken, but try to push to see how, you know, how dynamic can you get it. If I push it really, it'd be easier to actually push the Another thing that might help too is I'm going to go ahead and mask this, bring this up, maybe try to soft select this. We'll see what happens. But I'm also going to try to tilt it, give him a little bit of a tilt. It seems to be working. I don't want it to feel too, you know, if he's leaning too far forward, then maybe he might feel like he's not balanced. But I don't think we're running into that issue. I don't think he feels off balance. He still feels pretty stable. So. Someone's asking, is this clothing, armor not attached? It's all separate pieces because of the way I like to work in ZBrush. Let's head more because it's easier for posing. I like, again, looking at it from far away is always really helpful. You know, I mentioned maybe tail up, but we could also look at it and see what does it look like with tail down. Does that feel better? Does tail moving around feel better? Hulu is asking, do you prefer to push it past its believable limit and then dial back, or do you push it further and further until you can push more? I think it depends. For 3D, it's kind of, with something like this, that's the topology is already so clean, and not that I will try to maintain that, because it just does become a pain later to kind of clean up. But I do like to try to play as much as I can as possible with, you know, pushing those limits, like you said. And I think it does help to just try to go, okay, how far can I go? How far can he lean over? How far can he, can I make his legs go even farther or spread wider? Can I bring this up more? With this, it just has to be, you have to be careful with, the fact that he does have a lot of hard surface pieces that are kind of hard to work around. But again, this helps me later is, if I'm going to make this into a game asset eventually at some point, then I'm going to keep all these in mind when I was posing this now to be like, okay, what can I change to make this feel, more believable or to work better or to not have as much crashing or, things like that. So I'm constantly thinking about that stuff and how can I, take what I know now from posing it and, push it even further and make it better. So it's all a learning process, especially with stuff like this. I just moved his elbow thing back to try to get it out of the way from crashing and stuff. It does help to look at real armor, obviously. I think one thing that I miss probably with real armor does, it tends to have a dip right where your elbow crease is, so that way you can actually bend your arm fully. So it's things like that I'm like, all right, I'm going to make a note of that, and maybe I'll adjust that after the fact and later. But yeah, I definitely try to push as far as I can. But with 3D, it's always harder than like a 2D drawing, right? Because a 2D drawing, you can, draw this pose really quickly and then go, okay, let's have him, redraw it, lean a little further over, a little higher up, or a little farther back, or, whatever that may be. And I think that's the part that is invaluable to doing, posed, drawing and stuff. Now, if it was rigged, I would 100% be pushing this, way, way harder and being like, okay, let's, push this really far, let's make it lean down really low. But that's because it's way easier to, back out of it. In this case, I kind of have to do the opposite, where I have to kind of push gently and go, okay, am I breaking it yet? No, because once I pose it and keep that, it's kind of hard to go, oh, that was too much, and push it back in 3D. But yeah, once it's rigged, you can definitely push it the same way you do like a sketch. Okay, I'm gonna stop playing with this now because I think I just need to put it back to our scene so I can make all these little adjustments and stuff. Although I think one more thing, guys, one more thing. I'm gonna auto loop this. I'm gonna go ahead and select these pieces. Because I know I have these separate, so I think it would just be easier to do now. I'm gonna go ahead and mask this. And again, I'm gonna alt snap it, I'm gonna push this. And see, I can move these pieces around, so I can get it to feel like it's, pinching up or moving. So it doesn't look like it's crashing. And that'll also add more flow. Like if I add it to where this is turning slightly, and then I can mask this one and turn this one slightly and lift this up. It'll add like a nice tiny little gesture, right, to your piece, which I think actually does help a lot. So again, what looked kind of broken at first can always be changed. I'm gonna group that first. Back. Snap it. There we go. And then I can kind of push this one in and around and try to find a more functional place for it. And then like that. And now I can move the skeleton a little bit because I felt like it was getting maybe too stretched, right? And this is where I would probably pause and go look at some real world like reference and be like, okay, how does this actually, how does this actually push in or pull out or whatever it is? And just make those like slight adjustments. And we can see that this side is still really, really straight, so we can actually do the same thing. So if I auto group that, I think I lost the little nuts and bolts on the other side. Not gonna worry about though. Oh yeah, there's one that's like just hanging out. So I'm gonna group that. Again, I can redraw them so fast that I'm not. I think they're separate objects anyway, so I can just group them. Now I can do the same thing here. I can mask this dude. This up. I can bring this out. Oops. rotate this, right? Just to give it a little bit more character to its pose. Just so it feels like it can move, kind of move with him. And I think that helps with selling his movement. It's just kind of like how our last guy, we had, you know, the big cape, or his little hood, and what made a huge difference to make it look like he was jumping or flying or something is anything that could look like it could, you know, move with something, it did, and it had like that force to it, so it's important to think of stuff like that. Okay, now I'm gonna say okay. So hopefully it doesn't crash. Wish me luck. So now that we have this, we can go ahead and say T-pose sub T, and it's going to do its work, it's going to do its thing, and it's going to bring in the high res and the poly groups and the poly paint and all that stuff. So it's going through all my sub tools. And you can see it's slowly moving all those pieces around and squishing them, which is always really fun to see. And it will do its little magic and put all those little pieces in this place. And boom, and it'll brag about it and tell you how quickly it did it, and you're like, that's nice ZBrush, I don't really care. I'm the one who posted it. And there you go. So now you have cool posed character that's all, it has its highs and lows, so if I go to all high now, you can see that it keeps all of that info with it and whatnot, which is very cool. You can see some of my sculpting for the pants kind of works. Sometimes it doesn't, and that's totally fine. And you can see what I'm talking about, where, you know, maybe this actually does work because it looks like it's opening up, so he's stretching, and I can now go in here and just make sure that, you know, that boot gets pushed up a little more and whatnot. But that actually feels like it's stretching, whereas this one feels like it's compressed. So. Some of this stuff always works out better than you think. You can see that my little nuts and bolts didn't really make it through. We did a little bit. Seems like some made it through. I can either move them around into place, you know, or leave them as they are. This stuff is super easy to fix, so you can see that there's no edge loops going on here, so I can actually just take this, get a mask it. Again, use that alt snapping. Pull it up. And adjust that back into its place. Now it's just making these little adjustments like that. And I think there were some bolts and things that went with it that I think are missing. Let's see, where are they? Oh no, were there any? There might not have been any. If there were, then I'll find them later. But yeah, so now we can make that adjustment. And you can see this stretch down a lot, so we can go ahead and grab this dude. And I'm not gonna, again, I'm not worrying about the little bolts or anything. I'll first grab this whole piece. Yes, there's acorn tether. Well, because he's a chipmunk. Come on, it's gotta make sense. So I'm gonna go to what I think is kind of the center of this, oops, get over here, this little cog, and then I can turn it and hopefully it'll kind of stay, yeah, it'll stay, because that's what it would do in reality, right? It would kind of do that, and then we can now stretch this out. I wish there were, oh, well, I always say this, is that I wish there were sound effects, and then I really think about it, and I'm like, no, I'm okay. I don't want sound effects while I work. Take that back. I'll make my own sound effects. But yeah, so you can easily take that and stretch it out. Chipmunk. Oh, we've got the pun master in the house. It is a chipmunk. Where have you been all my life? Oh wait, you have been there all my life. Take that. So now we can take these little guys and I can mask those. And I can move them around. Because again, it does not have to be perfect. I'm just moving them kind of back to where they were. I say it doesn't have to be perfect, and then I'll get all like, okay, I gotta give me the movements and move it down, and then I gotta move it up and blah. But you really don't have to. You can just redraw if you want to. But there we go. Now it looks like it's stretching. Right, easy fix. Looks pretty good. We can even make this guy feel like it's maybe stretching up a little more. We can push this in a little more, maybe. There's going to be tons of folds here now, so I can go ahead and go to the lowest subdiv, and I'm just going to make sure when I go to smooth, make sure you turn off the color, otherwise those beautiful little acorns are going to get ruined. So I can smooth this out now, and I can start. It might be easier to look without the poly paint at first. I can move this. You can see some of my wrinkles like still pretty much work, because if I try to twist it in the flow that it was initially, like it should fit pretty good. I am going to add some more pinching and stuff in this area, just so it really feels like it's getting super compressed. Again, the more you can add that compression to stuff, the more realistic it's going to feel. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. It does it perfectly. Leave me alone. Working. So it's just a good habit, okay? It's not bad. Yeah, so I'm trying to push all this stuff in, so that way when I go in and sculpt this, I can make sure that this feels really, really compressed. You know, and stuff like this too, now I can push this in, and add like a nice big fat fold there, right? Oh yeah, get that stretching going. You know, and there's all this stuff in the back that doesn't really make any sense anymore, so I can smooth that out. Smooth this out a little bit more. I'm going to try to be careful of my seam line that I put in, but again, if I wanted to, I can fix it. But now I'm thinking about the compression, you know, which way does the compression go? And it's going to kind of stretch out that way, but this area is not going to have that much compression because it's technically stretching out probably against his back, right? If you think about the twisting what it's doing. So you won't have any major compression folds there. So a lot of these bigger folds I can kind of smooth out and make sure that it feels taut. And you can see how that alone will make it feel like it's sitting up against the skin. It's getting pulled, and then all this stuff is getting nice and compressed against him. This is asking, would I ever do a Blender sculpting stream? What would I say are the major differences? ZBrush can just handle more polygons. I think that's the part that makes it the hardest to transition. ZBrush, Blender does a great job. It's an awesome tool for a lot of different things. For me, its sculpting is actually what lacks the most, I think, of all of its tools. So I think that's the hardest part for me to want to transition, is it just doesn't have the topology or the tools that I, I'm constantly looking for, the ones I use the most. Bro, patience will get there. Someone's like, show the front. I'm like, I'm getting there. I'm busy. I gotta fix some stuff. I also have to fix this hole in here, which I can do by grabbing our base body here. I'll duplicate it, solo it out. I'm just going to grab its chest, delete hidden, and then I can, again, alt snap it down, and I probably can just kind of move that into place and twist it and find something that's close enough and be like, cool. Whoops, don't move the shirt. And turn on the color again and hide this dude. There we go. Now I can move that around and yeah, now he's got a body in there. That's fine. And just push, make sure that all that stuff just gets hidden. I'm just really looking at it from, I just want that. That's all I want. All I want. For making sure that this compression feels accurate, then I think a lot of it too is I can match this too, but you know, when you pull your deltoid up, it's going to get much bulkier. So we can try to make sure that we can kind of accentuate that he is stretching that out, and that he's stretching out his bicep, and that his tricep is the thing that's getting contracted, right? Because when you pull your arm back, it's your tricep that's doing all the work there. So again, you know, putting in that type of stuff also helps feel like he's stretching and doing the proper thing. Cool. Oh yeah, we got our big old sword, guys. So now we're gonna move this down. Move this up. Rotate it. ZBrush and figuring out where it is in space is always fun because it's not real 3D. Or it's fake perspective at least. Any sword master would yell at me if I didn't put his hand near the hilt and something. I watch too many of those history channels of like sword master judges Lord of the Rings fights or whatever it is, and they're always like, you know, tisking people. So I'm gonna make sure that I try to. This is one of those things too, where if I look at it from above, I go, okay, what would be the end of his swing? I would be like, really, I kind of want the sword to be. What do you want me to say, Cthulhu? What do you mean, coming from? Sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I remembered. Yeah, so if I want the sword, maybe I want it to be a bigger arc or to kind of complete his movement like that. That's where I can then, you know, I can have the sword and then I can hide the rest and just move the hand around if I wanted to. Or now that I have this, I could go back into the Z tool, but I'm gonna see. I'm gonna hide his arm. Don't need any of that. Since is asking if I named this character, I haven't, except for somebody on here was like, ooh, let's name it Chipmunk, right? It's a chipmunk, which is very, very cute, very clever. I'm gonna try to move it using this method here. Which is if you turn this on, you hit Control Shift, you can select subtools and move them all together. So now I can crank his wrist around. And hopefully get a little closer to that final pose and get that kind of inching stretching that I wanted. That looks good. And now I can take this here and, you know, again, adding more, the more you can add like compression in areas or knowing that this part is going to get pushed up against something and this is going to stretch out will also help sell the idea that it's, you know, moving and stuff like that. But if you want to give the sort of name, you can be my guest. Which is, I forgot that his hand, part of his little baby hand that's hidden is in there. So we can just, that's funny. You can just grab that and delete it. It's fine. You don't need it. Okay. I gotta pose. I gotta pose this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and delete what I had before, and I'm going to merge this down. Wait, is this merging? I have to be double careful with that stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and isolate this, and I'm gonna try to pose this guy. I'm gonna do an auto group. Let's see, does this already, what's the inside look like? Yeah, I'm just gonna auto group. Let me grab this guy, this guy, this guy. I'll mask it. I'll mask these guys and bring it back. No, go away. Yeah. So I think he's just gonna have kind of like a, you know, open claw or something like that. Like, I'm gonna try to be I'll probably just try to be a little sloppy. I say that, and then yes, I'll probably end up not being as sloppy as I usually do, but still. My sloppy is cleaner than most. I will not. I'll give myself that credit. I'm gonna try to move some of this stuff all at once if I can. Just grabbing, snapping, dragging. Hands are definitely the worst part to pose in ZBrush. They're not very fun. Someone's asking, well, I think it's a question that says artificial intelligence will replace 3D artists. The answer is no. I think there's a lot of automation to be done with AI, but at the end of the day, if you're a really good artist, AI can't design, can't create cool design, can't problem solve the way an artist can. So no, not really worried about it. And you can see that, you know, I mean, a lot of this stuff is very manual labor, even with like rigging and stuff involved. Cool. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Bear with me. Oh, when you're lucky, little pinkies down there. There we go. Just allow. I'm trying to be impatient, guys, because I want to make sure that I get this pose in. Still got plenty of time, but I want to try my best to see if I can get them in the same scene together. I think that'll add a lot of cool stuff to them. Trying to work semi quickly. But I mean, you know, you could do multiple pose variations in one day. In ZBrush, it's just, you look at me doing it, it's not that fun. It's way more fun to actually spend a day or two rigging this in reality, and then, you know, getting to do a bunch of posing variations after the fact like that. I'm gonna make sure that it's, like, again, feels like it's stretching and moving in the right spot. I've got his tube over here, so I can, you know, it's close to move this around. So it's a lot easier after the fact to move these tubes, so. Because then I can select it and I can do a soft selection. Try to get it as close as I can to where it was before though first. Which I think it attached here. I don't even remember. Yeah. Sometimes soft select can be so annoying. Soft select for me, please. Yeah. If I wanted to, I could also just redraw it out, but I'm just gonna be a little lazy here. And then in reality, I would probably want this feeling like it's kind of floating out. And I could always do the polish by features to try to polish that up a bit more. It should help a little bit, but I can go into my light brush as well and kind of try to make that more tubular. Thicken that up a bit if I wanted to. Move that around. Right, and then I have these guys. I'm just going to delete these. And I'm going to save this as brute blob. Posed. Right caps lock always turned on. So I'll save the pose one, and then I can load in the old one that's got just the T pose. There we go. And I can grab these tubes, throw them into the, oh, that's our other character, there it is. And go ahead and insert those tubes again. Whoa, sorry guys. Sorry. You can see here, I can probably get pretty close to moving that and putting that where it was. Super easy fix, not anything too crazy. That was pretty easy. Pretty easy, right guys? So now we have that, and then we can go ahead and pose this guy. Again, you can see it's super low, so it's really easy to. I can just mask. Start up here, and I can rotate it. Rotate it again, move it down, rotate it again, move it up. Do the same to his belt. You can grab that belt and throw it out a little bit. You see there's a lot of stretching and stuff that I've had to fix around the pants, but now I can also focus on some of the pants stuff too. So I'm going to smooth some of this stuff out. Because now this isn't where folds would be because it's stretching. And then same thing here, there would be different kinds of folds. Would be probably big folds going across here, stretching the pants out. Probably be some bunching up here, just a little bit. There probably wouldn't be as much bunching We're stretching here. I'm just smoothing this stuff out again, because this is where there won't be any folds. And then I'm gonna smooth that out, and I'm gonna start building up some punching there instead that go and follow into crotch area. I'm trying to create some folds that feel like they're probably up the intensity a little bit. Go. Again, just trying to think about where all of those folds are. And this is where like having reference and stuff too, like if you have some pajama pants or something, or really any pants would do, just something that, you know, can be kind of baggy, you could, again, get into this pose, and you could just even look at, you know, okay, what parts are stretching, or where do you feel the stretch, even just feeling it and seeing, okay, this is where, you know, your clothes would be tight around this area, and then there would be some bagginess here. Just kind of breaking and getting into that pose will help a lot. We're trying to figure out, you know, where all that stretching is going to go. There'll probably be a decent amount of still bunching and stuff in the in this area, right? Because it's bunching and padding into his armor, so that's fine. Still trying to figure out where I want that tail. Still not sure. Because I'm thinking from, you know, like a pose like this, you know, you could see the tail, so it adds like a better silhouette. Just all around, maybe that might be better. And it feels maybe like he's twisting more. So if I lower the topology, I might actually move it the other direction and make it feel like it's moving this way. It's a little too high topology for me to try to be really clean with it, but it'll be fine. Move his hang out, go. There's all these little adjustments. I'm being quiet. It's like these last little things, you know, to kind of help sell it. I think that's starting to look pretty good. I love always posing your character is always super fun because this is kind of like the moment where you get to see it kind of come to life. You know, and now if I wanted to, I could go in, and you know, this crashing actually doesn't look too bad. I thought it was going to look maybe a lot worse, but it actually, not too bothered by it. You can't really tell that it's crashing, so, you know, I'm not going to be super upset about that. If I wanted to, I can maybe move this stuff up a little bit, you know, in the back, just to hide some of this, stretching that's going on. I can smooth it out too, and you can see that the stretching goes away pretty quickly. Because it's all that quilted padding stuff that's underneath. That we haven't actually, it's just a surface noise texture, so we actually haven't added that yet. But all that still holds out and looks pretty good. That, and so that looks, and yeah, I'm not upset at all about any of that. And then Kind of a cool last final thing is we could maybe add like a cool sweeping effect. As to like where he swept from, and that's pretty easy to do. So we could, I mean, just as a placeholder, you know, what I would know, you know, if we were gonna have to cut through the smoke eventually, I would sculpt out like cool little smoke pieces like dithering onto his thing. But let's see, I'll just grab a cylinder. I can do normal cylinder. I can create a ring. What's actually really easy with, let's see if I can, where is it? Actually, I think it's in the ring option. This will actually be really easy because there's this like dithering effect that you can do. Yeah, this one. So we can do that, and then I can lower the topology to be super low. Like that. And then I can grab just that. I can hear it. Make our brush size really big, and we can, you know, try to keep the shape as much as possible, but we can kind of adjust this. I'm sure it kind of figures out to like a point or something. Which actually I should be using properly. I should be using the slide. I can use the slide vertice point, and I can easily slide that up properly. Make sure it goes to like a point. It's like a cool swoosh effect, you know? If I wanted to, I could even add a swoosh text or something. You know, you can add a bit of wobbliness to it. I'll turn on double so you can see it. You can add like a little bit of wobbliness to it so it feels like it's, you know, more organic. And just make it the same color as, you know, maybe the sword. Eventually it would be something where I would converge the two and sculpt it on top, and you could, you know, make it feel like it's the sword that's getting stretched and pulling around or something like that. But this is an easy enough cheat to make it feel like, you know, it's cutting through something. It's just a cool maybe visual representation. If you want to, you could like make it more transparent, or you want to make it look like it's transparent, you could select the background and make it a little lighter than the background. So it's like barely visible, and you could do some sort of trick like that, but it's really whatever you want it to be. Yeah, we have something like that. Okay, we have 10 minutes. It's probably gonna hate me if I do this, but let's just try. We're gonna merge it. We're gonna merge visible, and then so I'm gonna clear out all these tools we want to see. I'm gonna clear out these tools. I'm gonna save this first post. And say yes. And for the sake of actually gonna hide the swooshing because I don't know where it's gonna line up with our characters yet. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna say merge visible. It's gonna think. Okay, there's our one character. And now we're gonna load, let's load the Joker character. Where's our posed one? Post. Okay, open that. Someone says that they're learning a ton by watching the stream. I'm really happy to hear it. Cool to know we have this dude. This guy does have more subdivisions on him right now because I was able to work on him more after the fact. So I'm going to do it again, merge visible. Cool. This is just going to be really, really fast. And we're going to insert our merged Joker character. There they are. Oh man, this is chunky. So we'll move this dude around. Picture, you know what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of the explosion on him. And I'll bring it in separately. Ooh, it's chugging. It does not like me. It's actually not the chipmunk character that's a lot of trouble. It's actually the other character. Okay, so trying to find. Ooh, don't crash on me. All right. Might be easier to scale the other guy. Let's see how. I think he's a little lower res, so he might be. Yeah, he's a little more friendly. Make this guy bigger. We'll put him down. Turn on double. I have something. Oh man, this is so new. Oh, what is this? Oh, it's Spark 10. Man, he's heavy. Just there's like 16 million polygons, and it's like, please stop. I don't like it. Let me grab our explosion. Our explosion's already really high res, so it's really hating me, but it's okay. And now I can change this guy and make sure that this is set on the right plane. Turn off your perspective for that, because it's going to be hard to tell otherwise. And then I can bring in that swoosh. Oops. Where is it? Where's the swoosh? There it is. Let's say it's helpful to see like really where this would be going and how this would be swishing. Be a really big arc. Maybe you just missed them. They look kind of like they're looking at each other, right? Am I crazy? Maybe I'm not crazy. I don't know. I will. It's very chuggy, so I can't spin around it very nicely. So sorry about that, guys. But there you go. There's our two characters fighting it out. I was able to do it. It wasn't so bad. ZBrush really doesn't like my computer like killing me right now. yeah, there you go. So we have our two characters for our archetype. We have our trickster character and our brute character. It was super fun to create both of these guys. And next week we'll be doing something totally different. Well, maybe not totally different. It's still going to be me doing it, right? So, but we're going to be jumping into maybe a different genre and a different character and a different archetype. And I believe Gnomon's going to post up maybe what you guys would like to see as far as the next archetypes go and whatnot. So go ahead and post and share your thoughts on that. We always love to hear what people want. And so, yeah, we can totally do that. But for now, I'm going to log off, and I hope you guys enjoyed our brute and trickster dude. I think they turned out pretty cool, and they're super fun to do. So, yeah, tune in next time, and we'll keep cracking away at cool characters. So, bye.